At the start of 2019, Travis Head was the Test vice captain, yet he was dropped from the team by the end of 2020. No one really had talked about his vice captaincy all that much ever again. And at that point, he looked like a lost talent. A man who only wanted to slash square on the offside, struggled against right arm seam around the wicket, and all kinds of spin. In 2023, he would go on to shatter the dreams of 1 billion people twice. When things happen ahead, they seem to go very fast. Today, he brought up his 8th Test century against India in a pink ball test at the Adelaide Oval. He's very good against India, he's very good against pink balls, and he's very good against Adelaide Oval in Test matches. So it actually feels like it should have always happened. The thing is, it's been an absolute wild ride for Head to get to where he is. Head pulled off a similar tournament to 1996 Aravinda de Silva in the 2023 edition. After missing the first 5 matches, he just completely lit up the end of the tournament. In the T20 World Cup, he was the 3rd highest run getter with a strike rate of 158, despite the fact that no one made any runs and Australia didn't even make the semi-finals. He also had one of the quickest scoring seasons in the history of the IPL, one in which it looked like we were watching the sport evolve right in front of our eyes. And he hadn't even played in that tournament since 2017. And in the last 3 years of Test cricket, he has the 4th highest strike rate. Travis Head has gone from a failed vice captain and IPL player to perhaps the best all-format batter in the world almost as quickly as he scores his runs. And that is why Nasser Hussain decided to bowl first at the Gabba. And this all, of course, reminds me of Hit Wicket, which is a mobile cricket strategy game that is all about making those tough decisions. Who do you want to send in as an opener when the asking rate is climbing? Do you go for the big hitter or the steady accumulator? Me, I like to throw in someone a little bit unorthodox. A bit of a wild card like the general. That keeps the opposition guessing. And what about the bowling attack? Do you unleash your express pace early or hold back for the death overs? I'm always tempted to bring on a mystery spinner in the middle overs and just try and break a partnership. Hit Wicket puts you in the captain's chair. You draft the squad and select the batting order and even decide when to use those game-changing abilities. Do you burn your 2x ability to chase down a big total or save it for a critical moment later on? It's strategic, it's addictive, and it's more nerve-wracking than facing a Shoaib Akhtar bouncer. Give it a go. Download Hit Wicket and see if you've got the tactical nous to win. In 2015, Head smashed a List A double 100. For a star-starved team like South Australia, this was pretty huge. Head was a batter who didn't just make runs, he destroyed bowlers. And the national team was convinced shortly after as well. But it wasn't smooth. And when he played for Australia, he didn't look like a dominant player. If anything, he came across as quite flawed. So Head's resurgence in international cricket starts in the 21-22 Ashes, where he was the highest run scorer in a pretty low-scoring series, if we're being honest. But more than the amount of runs, it was the speed that caught everyone's attention. A strike rate of 86. At the Gabba, he smashed Jack Leach's bowling into oblivion on the way to 152 runs. I honestly didn't know if we'd ever see Jack Leach walk the streets again. And it might not sound so surprising now, but before that series, his strike rate was less than 50. He was often confused and it was easy to game plan for him. Since then, it's gone up to almost 80. And crucially, he scores significantly quicker against both pace and spin now. A player who was slow and unsure is now fast with bulletproof confidence. And as we said before, he has the 4th best strike rate of all Test batters with over 1,000 runs in the last 3 years. Only Harry Brook, Ben Duckett and Rishabh Pant score quicker than him. 2 of them, like Head, also bat at number 5 for their teams. Australia started calling all this Trav Ball, and it was partly to troll England. But he was clearly going at teams in the same way. The innings against India to win Australia a test over there came after there was a chance he might not even play a game in that series because of how he plays spin. And in that test, he smashed it. And in fact, he's been smashing everything since. And along with such a dramatic increase in his scoring rate, his averages also improved. Till 2020, he had a brilliant average against spin, but the vast majority of it he had faced in Australia or England. And when he did face an off-spinner in the UAE, he did not play it particularly well at all. But the real surprising thing was how poor he was against pace. So now, of course, he's playing far more around the world and he's struggling more against spin. But he doesn't care because he's going to absolutely try and whack the crap out of it anyway. But now he's not worried what kind of bowler he's up against because he's just going to whack it. So his inflated average from before has halved against spin. But against pace, he's got much better on both metrics. But today we saw how he looks at spinners. He just decided to launch Ashwin back over his head. This is a destroyer of left-handers and he did not worry at all. There's a big feeling of ride or die when it comes to Travis Head's batting. It means that as a bowling team, you can be confident against him using spin because you know you're a chance of getting a wicket, but you also know that if it doesn't work, in one over, he can change the entire game. And while he's not a massive outlier in terms of batting average like Brook is, his returns are still quite impressive, especially for an attacking player. Duckett is not too far off, while Pant is a bit better than those two. But Head's last 2 years haven't been that great in tests, and that has been hard to notice with what he has done in every major moment for Australia: World Test Championship finals, World Cups, and also the IPL. But his test numbers have slipped, perhaps because Australia's top order meant that he was in earlier at times. But eventually things were going to come his way and he was going to dominate again. Today, Labuschagne and McSweeney saw off the new ball, Bumrah was rested, the lights weren't on, and India missed 2 chances. Those were a lot of things in his favour. But the difference between Head and most batters is the clobbering he can give once you give him an inch. Like with Brook, once it starts, teams don't seem to have any options other than ducking for cover. The left-hander averages in the high 80s against the West Indies, mid-60s versus India, and above 50 at a run of ball against South Africa. His record against England is also very good, despite the fact that some of his poorest form came against them. And of course, his strike rate has been elite against all of these teams. He struggled to score runs versus New Zealand, Pakistan, and Sri Lanka so far. But obviously, he has been far away at his best on home soil. But it is worth mentioning he was pretty good in India as well. Even though the selectors and myself probably thought he wasn't going to play in that at all, and maybe shouldn't. After his 100 in the World Test Championship final, he has a decent run in the Ashes. But the series against Pakistan was very high scoring. But he couldn't make the most of that. And in Sri Lanka, he got out twice to off spin and once to left arm finger spin. So his away record is still not ideal. But it no longer feels like a deal breaker. It is now just a matter of time before he makes runs everywhere. At home, he averages 51 in red ball tests, and that goes up to 57 in the pink ones. Clearly, the man likes the lighter colours more. Travis Head specifically loves batting in his hometown. Not in shield matches where he averages like 35, but in tests. So he averages just over 50 in all of Australia, but just under 80 at the Adelaide Oval. Today was a pink ball test in Adelaide against India. So Head brought up his 8th Test 100 and his 6th in the last 3 years. But while he's had some incredible moments in tests, it is the white ball game where he has been tearing down everyone. Yet he only returned to the ODI team against Pakistan in 2022. His first innings was 101 off 72 balls. That would be the start of something incredibly special. Since 2022, Head has the second best true strike rate in ODIs, only behind Rohit Sharma. But he also has the second best true average after Shubman Gill. Rohit and Gill were an incredible opening pairing for India in the World Cup. And he is basically as good as Gill at not being dismissed, while matching Rohit's ramped up strike rate. One of those would be impressive, but the two together bends your mind. He's taking incredible chances when batting and not being punished for them. And it isn't like he's getting his eye in and then going, like, say, Chris Gale does. When we looked at the quickest starters according to true values, only Rohit is ahead of him. Shreyas Iyer is the third best and is behind by some distance. He's deciding to hit from near the start of his innings and stopping when the opposition is lucky enough to have him dismissed. In the World Cup, he again had the best true strike rate, quicker than Maxwell, quicker than the high-intent Rohit Sharma, and everything else. He had 3 big knocks and 3 failures in his 6 innings. The first came against New Zealand in Dharamshala, where he blitzed 109 off 67 balls. It was a crucial time for Australia in that tournament. After getting Klaasen and Johnson out in the semi-final, he set up that chase on a very tough wicket. And then came the final. He took a great catch to get rid of Rohit Sharma, and he's not even that good a fielder. And then he might have also gone on to make the best World Cup 100. Now, there have been some doozies, but he certainly sliced that game into pieces and got Australia their 6th men's ODI World Cup. Against what was, let's be honest, an Indian juggernaut who were undefeated until that moment. There really aren't many players in the world that have that kind of impact on a big game, and he seems to do it again and again, if you look back to the World Test Championship final as well. That was twice in 1 year he did things that other players simply cannot do. And the next white ball tournament he dominated was the IPL. His partnership with Abhishek Sharma meant that we had a new word, Travishek. The Sunrisers didn't go on to win the IPL, but they did make it to the final. However, their style of play was not just entertaining, but extremely effective. Only Jake Fraser McGurk and Abhishek had a better true strike rate than him, and his true average was way better than those guys. His nearest neighbours on this chart are Sunil Narine and Phil Salt. And that was the opening pair that really set up KKR's title win. Now remember that this was a tournament that in 2016, RCB had huge hopes for him. And by 2018, no team was that interested. The talk around the league was that he would never be able to play spin, and he wasn't good enough against pace to overcome it. 7 years later, he comes back, and he smashes spin, he smashes pace, he plays 1 year and perhaps does more damage than anyone has ever done. None of that is normal. Then he goes to the T20 World Cup, which is a bowler's World Cup, and no one is scoring quickly. He has a true strike rate of 29 while being the third highest run scorer. That was a tournament set up for batters to fail, and again, he did not. In the group stage, he got a couple of quick 30s against England and Namibia, followed by 68 against Scotland. He played a great cameo against Bangladesh, and then a brilliant knock against India in what was a losing cause. His only failure was a duck against Afghanistan. And let's be honest, that was probably the difference between Australia winning the entire tournament or not. And we see that effect in all formats at the moment. When Head is out, it is like all hope for the batting team is lost. His gravitational pull is so incredibly epic that when he is dismissed, it feels like you've lost 2 wickets. So is he the best all-format batter currently? It's worth having a look at a couple of other players. Yashasvi Jaiswal is a special talent, but he hasn't actually made his ODI debut yet. Harry Brook is a better player in tests than Head is at the moment, but he's not reached anywhere near that level in white ball cricket. Rishabh Pant is another batter who was doing really well in all formats, but of course that serious injury has kept him out of the game for a little while. So he didn't even play in the last ODI World Cup. Shubman Gill and Ratchan Ravindra are also very good batters, but they are yet to dominate at this level. So whether the Head is the best or not, you're going to have to argue amongst yourselves. But there is no batter in the world who is an outlier in all 3 formats like he is. But honestly with him, I think it's a lot more than that. It's not really about the runs, or even sometimes the speed of them. Because when Travis Head is batting, I don't think you care if the ball is white, red or pink. You just hope you're lucky enough to be watching. I have a book out with Abhishek Mukherjee, and it is called Overthrowing Cricket's Empire. And it's about the stories of how each team beat England for the first time. We go all the way back to the demon Fred Spofforth getting annoyed at W.G. Grace for acting a little bit like Alex Carey. And then we come all the way to present times with Rashid Khan's England's redemption. We cover every single team to beat England in a major international, but we also talk about the incredible stories like the barefoot basher from Fiji that almost played for New Zealand. In fact, this book is full of tales like that, like how Pakistan lost a top batter after he was on the run from an angry husband of a movie star he was having an affair with, and also how one future captain of his nation realised he might have to go out and bat at Lords and that he didn't own his own pads. Cricket was used as a tool by the empire, but what happens when those nations grow up and get good at it? Find Overthrowing Cricket's Empire on Amazon today.